So let's start setting up the profile page. I'll grab these imports right away so we don't need to tape them out. And as a quick side note, if you're wondering why we have here this dashboard form page as far as the wrappers, because I combined the wrapper for multiple pages. See, if you take a look at the project, you'll notice that add job and profile are pretty similar. I mean, it's just a form with a bunch of inputs. And therefore, instead of creating two wrappers, I just went with one. And as a result, I have the styles for both pages in one place. So let's copy this one. Again, there's no point to type this one out. And we're looking for a dashboard, more specifically profile. Let's copy and paste. And as far as the functionality, let's start by grabbing is loading and user. So is loading and then user. And that one is coming from use selector. We want to pass in the store. And then more specifically, we want to look for store and user. Let's save this and let's also set up the dispatch. Dispatch is equal to, and by the way, I need to add const here, of course, then use dispatch. Let's invoke that. And let's set up that user data. Again, I just find it more convenient if we set this one up as a object, because that way we can keep that handle change in one place and then just update specific value in the object. So let's go here with const, then user data. Then we want to go with set user data. And then that one will be equal to use state. And let's set up the object right from the get-go. We'll say name is equal to, then user question mark dot. So optional chaining and then name. Or if it's invalid, then we go with or operator. And as a side note, I think I'll have to go back to the README and fix it. See, that's what happens when you set up the README separately here. So let me go here, and these should be or operators. Now, of course, again, in your case, you already have the correct setup. So let me go back to my profile one. I want to add a comma, and then let's copy and paste right away. And we just need to change these values around. And basically, they match exactly what we have in a state. So let's go back and just double check, just so you don't think that I'm cheating. So if I navigate here, I have the Redux. I have the user, and at the moment I'm looking for pending action. So let me actually look at the last one. And then in here, we'll be able to see the email, last name, location, and name. So these are all the values that we want in the profile one. And then the token one we'll use when we make this request. And I'm going to talk about it in way greater detail later, so I'm going to skip it for now. So let's navigate back here. And again, we want to set the property equal to whatever is the state value. So second one will be email. Then the third one, I believe it's a last name. And then we have the location here. So let's change this one around. Then we want to right away set up the handle submit, where we'll check for those empty values. And also we will eventually submit the request. So let's go here with const handle and then submit. Now in here we'll be looking for the event because we want to prevent the default. Prevent default, let's invoke that, and then let's set up the condition right away. So if no name or, and then rest of the values. So if no email, if no last name, or if no location. If one of them is missing, then basically let's set up the toast. So let's say here toast error, and as far as the values, let's just go with please fill out all fields. And as I said, this is a very, very nifty extension for people like me who always make some kind of spelling errors. And the extension that I'm talking about is this one, code spell, I think checker. Yeah, that's the one. It's an awesome extension. It really has saved me a lot of times. And essentially, it's just looking for the errors and displays that blue squiggly line. So please fill out all fields. Tiny side note, but very important for me at least. And then let's keep on moving. And now let's set up that handle change, the one that will pass into the form. What was the name? Form row. So let's go here with const and then handle change. Let's go back to all the files. So handle change. And in here again, we're looking for the event object. We'll right away set it up with name and value, just like we were doing as a side note in the register. I'm pretty sure it was exactly the same setup. So if you want, you can copy that one. Now I'll type this one out. But again, we're looking for name, value, and then we just want to dynamically update. So let's just set it up as const name, then event dot target name, copy and paste. And if you're wondering why I prefer setting up as a separate variable, simply because when I'm recording, I think it's a bit more explicit what's happening. Otherwise, if I just type here event.target, I mean, some students are confused about it, understandably so. And yes, when I usually make my own applications, I don't do that. But when I'm recording, I think it's a must. So everyone is on the same page. So let's go here with the object. Again, we want to copy first the user and data. Let me just double check. Is it there? No, it's user date, of course. That's why there's an error. So user data. And then we want to go with name is equal to a value. So that's about it for the function. So now let's just set up that return. First, we want to grab the wrapper. Then we'll set up the form. So let's go with form with the class name of form. We don't want to action since we're handling that with JavaScript. We do want to set up the on submit. And in here, let's just go with handle and submit. That's the function name. Then we're going to go with heading 3 and we'll pass in the profile. And after the heading 3, we're going to go with div with the class of form center. And inside of this one, we'll set up those form rows and one by one fill out the values. So let's start first with the name one. So form row, now type will be equal to text. And I'm actually going to slow down right now just so I don't make some silly mistakes. So then name is equal to name. Like I said, it needs to match whatever we have in the state. It's very, very important. Now the value is equal to an actual state value. And this is the case where, of course, I need to look for the user data first, unless we destructure it. So I think I'm going to go here with user data and then dot and name. And lastly, we want to grab the handle change. And yes, it looks like I need to update this one in the README as well. So let me go here with handle change is equal to, let's close the form row. That's our first one. And before we continue, let me quickly swing back to the README. Again, your README is going to be correct already, don't worry. So username, user data dot name, user data dot last name, user data dot email, and then user data dot location. And back in the profile, let's copy and paste. If you want, you can set up the comments, but in my case, I won't do that. We want to copy this 3 times and we just need to change the values. So for the second one, type will be still text. However, the name will be last name. And first, let me just enter that and then you'll see where is the issue. And then we'll set up the label text. As far as the value, it's going to be equal to a last name. And then handle change stays the same. That's the reason why we set it up. For the email, we're going to go with type email, name email, and value email. So all of these 3 will change. And then for the last one, it's going to be text input. But of course, these 2 will be locations. So let me target both of them. And let's just type location. And it looks like we have an issue. So let me double check. Let me scroll up. Oh yeah, in here. So prior to recording the video, I actually switched the code. So that's why there are a few bugs over here. So you know what? Let's do it this way. Const, and then let me grab all of them. So I'm going to take the name, email, last name, and also location. And I'll set it equal to user and then data. Basically, I'll destructure it from this state. And now let me add that line of code here as well. So let me go back, and then in the README, let me add, so there is no issue, like so. So now everything should be working. Yep, we correctly have all the values. Like I said, by default, server is going to set up location as my city. So once we change this value, then of course it's going to be updated here as well. And then when we add the job, it's always going to be the user's location. And as far as the label text, notice, so I'm displaying last name. So it kind of makes sense if we set up a separate prop there, which we already have. We just need to implement it. So let me go to form row. I'm looking for label text. And in here, let's type label text or name. So if the label text is present, then use that. If not, then name. And now back in the profile one, where we have the last name over here, we can go with label text, and let's just decide what we want to display. So in my case, it's going to be last name, like so. So not camel case, just a regular text. And last thing we want to add here, still within the div. So please don't place it outside. It still needs to be in the form center. We want to set up that button. We want to go here, button submit, and we're going to set up some classes here as well. So class name and then btn block. And also let's disable the button while we're loading. So disabled equals to is loading. So if it's true, then the button is disabled. If we're done with the request, and of course we can use the button again. Now we also want to set up the expression over here where depending on is loading value, will display different text. Again, ternary operator will say if the loading is true, text will be please wait ... Now if it's false, then we'll just say save changes. Let's save it. This is going to be the look of our profile page. So now let's start setting up the functionality.